Hi guys, it's your girl Sharona Campbell, and my second video that I would like to discuss is the animated sexy character who is Betty Boop. Now, I'm a fan of Betty Boop. I'm not a huge fan in the sense that I don't have everything Betty Boop. I don't really dive down into the history of the character of Betty Boop until now. I do have all the Funko Pops of Betty Boop because I find her very sexy, sensual. She loves the color red, which is my favorite color, and because of that, I do have a profile name or screen name on different media platform, and it is Sexy Red. I go by Sexy Red, and I got that name from Betty Boop because she's sexy, she's sensual, and her favorite color is red, or actually her hair color was red, and then they started dressing her in red things. But to get back to Betty Boop with the history, after loving her for so many years, I never knew the full history of her until I did some investigation, only to find out that she was originally a poodle and she was originally a black woman. But because of the times that she was created, which was the 1930s, I think it was, she was, the word they use, quote unquote, whitewashed. So that's why people don't know, majority of the people, they do not know that Betty Boop was actually a woman of color. Started as a poodle, but she is actually a woman of color. The actress that they pointed Betty to was the actress named Helen Kane. So because she had that look similar to Betty Boop, I'll show you the picture. You'll see where, back in that day, those time in the 1930s, you can see where, okay, the resemblance is there. But I found this little article. I'm just going to read real quickly what it says. Folks met Betty Boop. You'll be seeing a lot of her because she is the new animated cartoon character who is trying to cut in on Mickey Mouse's popularity. Does she look familiar to you? Now look at the little boop-a-dooper Helen Kane. Helen was the cartoonist inspiration for Betty, the first time a real-life character has been used for the popular Jumpin' comics. Now they're saying this is the first time a real-life person has been used for Betty Boop. And it was not the first time. As I said, the woman is a woman of color, but because back then her name was Esther Jones, and they called her Baby Esther, they could not use her, so that's why they went with this Helen Kane as a introduction of the real life Betty Boop after they took her out of what she was originally created as, which was a poodle. And right here it says the origin. It says the character was originally created as a plump anthropomorphic French poodle, which was originally a take on Helen Kane, a popular Boop-a-Doop Paramount Picture screen star and recording artist. So she was a French poodle, and then they made her into this Helen Kane, the real life Helen Kane, a real life human, I should say. So I'm going to show what the French poodle of Betty Boop looked like. I'll show you what Helen Kane looked like. And then the black woman, or the woman of color, who was the real Betty Boop, is, her name again is Esther Jones, and they call her Baby Esther. And I found this on PBS, so I can read this for you. The real Betty Boop was a black woman before she was whitewashed. PBS has confirmed that Betty Boop, the popular cartoon character introduced to the world by cartoonist Max Fleischer in 1930, was actually inspired by a real-life African-American jazz singer and entertainer from Harlem named Esther Jones. Her stage name was Baby Esther, but unfortunately, when the character became the first and most famous sex symbol in animation, she was whitewashed, with most people having no idea where the original inspiration came from. So basically, they're saying a black woman is not sexy, could not be sexy to carry this character off. And again, we have to look in the times that we're talking about. This was in the 1930s. So if Betty Boop is originally a woman of color, back then they could not sell this character to the media or to people, because people would not buy it, because the image of Betty Boop was this sexy, sensual woman, and they would not put that on a black woman in the 1930s. So they had to find some way to get the character out there, and what better way than to have a white woman take that character on. And again, she was a French poodle, then the black woman, and then the white woman for media acceptance. That's how Betty Boop basically trickled down from line to line. Another known fact that we need to know about Betty Boop is that the French poodle was first portrayed by a Margie Hines, and the French poodle was retired in 1939, but later discovered in the 1970s. So again, Betty Boop was a French poodle, which was created by Margie Hines in the 1930s. Betty Boop, for some, in her time was, as I said, sexy, sensual. And in this day and time, like 2019, if you had to pick a sexy animated character, some people might say Miss Piggy or Jessica Rabbit, but Betty Boop will always have that #1 spot for me when it comes to a sexy cartoon character. If you want to say who's the sexiest cartoon character there is, I would definitely say Betty Boop is #1. #2, you could do Miss Piggy or Jessica Rabbit, but again, Betty Boop is #1. So I just wanted to share that little known fact with you about Betty Boop, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, they did not have any idea that Betty Boop was actually a woman of color. I've also reached out to Funko Pop asking them, it's about time that they do have dolls with the complexion of what she really is. As I said, I have all the Funko collection, all 9 of them, which I love, but now they need to go back to the true person who she really was and start producing Funko Pops showing that Betty Boop is a woman of color, and to start having those colors sold for people to buy. So again, I hope you like this video, a little education on where the character Betty Boop comes from. At first, she was a French poodle. Then, because of the time that she was created, in the 1930s, they gave the job to a Helen Kane because that's what was acceptable. A black woman was not acceptable in that time. And the original Betty Boop, whose name is Esther Jones, stage name Baby Esther, she's the one who's forgotten about, and we need to get her name out there so people know that she is the original Betty Boop, and we need to start seeing more merchandise, products, websites, just anything in entertainment, anything that's sellable. I don't even think that's the word, but anything that can be marketed, I should say. We need to start seeing a different light of Betty Boop. They can keep the original, but they also need to introduce who she really was. Again, which is a black woman named Esther Jones, her stage name Betty Esther, and that's how the character Betty Boop was created. And because of the times they lived in the 1930s, Esther, was not able to portray herself or the character that was made of her. So that's a little known fact about Betty Boop. Again, a poodle, originally a woman of color, but they gave that to a white woman because America during that time could not fathom or stand that a black woman could be sexy and sensual. And it's 2019 now, so as I said, I did send a little message out to Funko Pop to start creating. Let's see what happens in 2019 if we do see a different Betty. If you like what you hear, subscribe and share this little known fact to your friends, family, and until next time, bye. Hi guys, it's your girl Sharona Campbell, and my second video that I would like to discuss is the animated sexy character who is Betty Boop. Now, I'm a fan of Betty Boop. I'm not a huge fan in the sense that I don't have everything Betty Boop. I don't really dive down into the history